Leo Carter and his girlfriend, Khloe, had been together for years. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but it was stable, rooted in trust, familiarity, and quiet affection. Leo was the kind of man who expressed love through action rather than words. He picked her up after late classes, remembered her favorite coffee order, and listened even when she didn't say much. To him, that was enough. But then came Ethan Riley, a charming freshman with an easy smile and a knack for saying exactly what people wanted to hear. He wasn't particularly handsome, nor did he come from money, but he carried himself with a confidence that caught attention. Ethan began talking to Khloe after class, complimenting her intelligence, her independence, the way she didn't need anyone to define her. At first, Khloe brushed it off as friendly conversation. Yet his words lingered. A good woman shouldn't depend on her boyfriend to feel valued. That line echoed in her mind more than she cared to admit. Slowly, she began to question the relationship she had always felt secure in. Was Leo too protective? Too controlling? Maybe Ethan was right, maybe she had lost herself in being Leo's girlfriend. Leo sensed the distance before she said anything. The warmth in her texts faded, her tone became colder, and her excuses to avoid spending time together grew more frequent. When he finally asked what was wrong, Khloe hesitated before saying quietly, "I just need some space, Leo. I feel like I can't breathe sometimes." It was the first time Leo realized love alone might not be enough to hold two people together, especially when someone else was quietly rewriting the script of their story. The message came late at night, a single notification that froze Leo in place. "A wonderful girl like her deserves better than you. Thanks for taking care of her all these years." Ethan Riley. For a long moment, Leo just stared at the screen, disbelief turning into a slow, boiling rage. His hands trembled as he read the words again, each one cutting deeper than the last. It wasn't just arrogance, it was mockery. A challenge. The next morning, Leo found Ethan waiting outside the literature building, leaning casually against a bench, talking to Khloe as if nothing was wrong. When Leo approached, Ethan smiled faintly, polite, calculated, and said, "Hey, man. You look upset. Everything okay?" Leo's voice was low, but every syllable carried tension. "Stay away from her." Ethan tilted his head, feigning confusion. "From Khloe? We're just friends. You don't trust her?" His tone was soft, almost sympathetic, but his eyes glittered with something sharp and provoking. Khloe stepped between them, anxious. "Leo, please don't do this here." It was like a knife twisting in his chest. The woman he loved was defending the man who was trying to take her away. Ethan gave a small, victorious smirk that only Leo caught, and something inside him cracked. That night, Leo and Khloe fought for hours. Every sentence turned into an accusation about trust, control, and independence. "You're trying to control me, Leo," she shouted. "You act like I can't think for myself." "I'm trying to protect you," he said through clenched teeth. "He's manipulating you, Khloe." But she didn't believe him. By the time the argument ended, tears had dried into silence. Khloe packed a small bag, looked at him one last time, and said the words Leo would never forget, "Maybe Ethan's right. Maybe I deserve better." The door closed softly behind her, but the sound felt like the end of everything. The argument started like so many before it, small, sharp, and bitter. But this time, there was no coming back. The air between them crackled with months of tension, every word now poisoned by misunderstanding and pride. Leo stood in the middle of the living room, his jaw tight. "You've changed, Khloe. You don't even sound like yourself anymore." Khloe's eyes glimmered with tears, but her voice was cold. "Maybe this is who I am. You just never wanted to see it." He took a step closer, his voice trembling with both anger and heartbreak. No. This isn't you. This is him, Ethan. He's twisting everything between us. The mention of Ethan's name was like striking a match to gasoline. Khloe's face hardened. Don't you dare blame him. He's the only one who actually listens to me. Leo's chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. Listens to you? He's playing with you, Khloe. You think he cares? You're just a trophy to him, a way to hurt me. Before he could finish, a sharp sound split the room. Slap, her hand still hung in the air, trembling. The echo of the slap lingered longer than any words could. Leo didn't move. He just stared at her, not with anger, but with a kind of numb disbelief. For a moment, she looked terrified by what she had done. But pride was stronger than regret. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. We're done, Leo. He swallowed hard, forcing the fury back down. If that's what you want, he said quietly, then go. As she turned and walked out, Leo's hands clenched into fists. The rage burned in his veins, but beneath it was something colder, suspicion. Ethan's sudden appearance, his manipulative charm, the way everything had fallen apart so precisely, it felt orchestrated. Someone was pulling the strings, and Leo swore he would find out who. Days passed in silence after the breakup, but Leo's mind refused to rest. Heartbreak slowly gave way to something darker, obsession. He needed answers. Ethan Riley had appeared out of nowhere and managed to dismantle a relationship that had taken years to build. That kind of precision wasn't random. Late one night, Leo sat in his father's study, a room filled with dark wood, old books, and the quiet hum of power. His father, Richard Carter, was a man of few words but immense influence. When Leo asked for his help, the older man studied him for a moment, then simply nodded. You want to know who this boy really is, he said. Then we'll find out. Within a week, the Carter family's private network of investigators delivered a report. The file was thick, but one page was enough to make Leo's stomach twist. Ethan Riley, age 19. No known family assets. Father deceased, mother unemployed. Recipient of the Carter Foundation's Academic Excellence Scholarship, a grant personally funded by Leo's own family. Leo stared at the paper, his pulse pounding. You mean I've been paying for him? For this? His father nodded grimly. It seems so. You helped build the very bridge he used to cross into your life. The realization hit like a physical blow. The boy who had torn his world apart was someone Leo had unknowingly supported. Every arrogant smirk, every manipulative word, all of it financed by his own generosity. Anger burned through him, but beneath the fury was a deep humiliation. Ethan hadn't just taken Khloe, he'd made Leo a fool in his own story. Leo closed the file slowly, his voice cold. He wanted my attention. Fine. Now he'll have it. For the first time since the breakup, Leo felt calm, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. Leo Carter wasn't the kind of man who acted on impulse. His anger had cooled into something sharper, calculation. What Ethan had done wasn't just personal, it was an attack on his pride, his reputation, and the Carter name. His father's words echoed in his mind, every wound is an opportunity to measure your strength. So Leo turned his pain into a test, his first real move in the ruthless world his father ruled. He began gathering information, tracing Ethan's connections, his part-time jobs, his online posts, every detail that could be used to expose the truth. But before he could act, fate handed him a stage. At a university charity event hosted in the central courtyard, Leo arrived to represent the Carter Foundation. Cameras flashed, professors spoke, students gathered, and then, as if summoned by irony itself, Ethan appeared. He wasn't alone. Khloe walked beside him, hand in hand, smiling as if the past had never happened. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some pitied Leo, others watched for drama. Ethan thrived on the attention, greeting people loudly, glancing at Leo every few seconds with that smug, deliberate smile. Leo didn't react, not at first. He waited, calm and expressionless, until Ethan's voice carried just a little too far. "Not everyone can handle losing, huh?" That was the moment Leo stepped forward, microphone still in his hand, and said evenly, "Since we're all celebrating honesty today, maybe we should also celebrate hard work, like Ethan's part-time job at the Grey Horse Club." The crowd murmured. Someone gasped. Everyone in town knew the Grey Horse wasn't just a club, it was a high-end escort bar for the city's elite. Ethan's face drained of color. He stammered, That's not true," but it was too late. Phones were already out, photos spreading. In a desperate act, he stumbled backward, clutching his arm as if injured, crying out, "He hit me." Gasps erupted. Khloe rushed to his side, glaring at Leo, and in that instant, Leo realized Ethan wasn't just a liar, he was a master manipulator who knew how to weaponize sympathy. By the next morning, Leo Carter's name was everywhere, and not in the way he'd hoped. A viral post had exploded across every social platform: "Rich heir Leo Carter assaults student over ex-girlfriend." The source? Ethan Riley, complete with a bandaged arm, fake bruises, and a trembling voice in a short video. "I just tried to stand up for Khloe," Ethan said to the camera, tears glistening under perfect lighting. "But he grabbed me, shoved me. I'm not afraid of him, I just want the truth out." Within hours, hashtags trended. Hashtag justice for Ethan, hashtag toxic Leo, hashtag rich abuser. Comment sections flooded with outrage. People called Leo a monster, a spoiled tyrant, a controlling ex who couldn't handle rejection. Even Khloe reposted the video, writing, "People should know who he really is." For the first time in his life, Leo tasted public humiliation. His inbox filled with hate, his company's email was spammed with threats, and reporters camped outside his office. But Leo wasn't a man who broke easily. When the storm peaked, he made his move. Through his father's legal team, he issued a calm statement: "The Carter family will pursue legal action for defamation and falsified evidence." Then, he released the truth. A compilation of verified footage and payment records surfaced, showing Ethan working under a pseudonym at the Grey Horse Club. Not as a bartender, but as a private companion for wealthy, married women. Screenshots of his conversations, appointment logs, and even one recorded confession from a client went public. The internet flipped overnight. The same crowd that had worshipped Ethan turned on him with brutal speed. Liar. Fraud. Disgusting. His scholarship was revoked, his academic record suspended, and the university expelled him under moral misconduct. Khloe, who had publicly defended him, wasn't spared either. Brands cut ties with her, classmates avoided her. The perfect couple of the internet became its favorite scandal. Leo didn't celebrate. He simply watched the world burn from the quiet of his office, expression unreadable. Ethan had started a war, but Leo had finished it with precision. Still, something in him felt hollow. Victory, he realized, didn't always feel like justice. Ethan Riley's fall was brutal and public. Once the darling of social media, he became the city's most hated man overnight. Every secret he had buried was dragged into the light: the lies, the manipulation, the women he'd deceived. But the worst came from the husbands of those women. Powerful, furious men who didn't take humiliation lightly. One night, after leaving a cheap motel where he'd been hiding, Ethan was cornered in an alley by two men in black suits. There were no words exchanged, only fists, boots, and the sound of breaking glass. When it was over, he lay in the gutter, blood mixing with rainwater, too weak to even cry out. The next morning, the news broke: Ethan Riley hospitalized after assault. The internet barely reacted, most called it karma. Leo read the headline from his office window, coffee in hand, his reflection calm against the glass. There was no triumph in his eyes, only a detached kind of satisfaction, the way one feels when a storm finally passes. That afternoon, his phone buzzed. A message from Ethan: "I'm sorry. You win. Please, just let me explain. I never meant for it to go this far." Leo stared at the message for a long time. Then he took a screenshot, posted it to his private account with a single caption: "Apologies don't erase choices." He blocked the number. Outside, rain began to fall again, soft, steady, and cold. Somewhere across the city, Ethan lay in a hospital bed, broken and forgotten. And for the first time in months, Leo felt an odd sense of peace, not mercy, not forgiveness, but closure. Spring came quietly that year, wrapping the campus in sunlight and soft winds. For most students, it was a time of celebration, the end of exams, new beginnings, and promises of the future. For Leo Carter, it was simply closure. He stood among the graduates, tall and composed in his dark gown, his expression calm but distant. While others laughed and took pictures, he felt like a man who had already lived several lifetimes in a few short months. The heartbreak, the scandal, the revenge, all of it had aged him in ways no one could see. When the ceremony ended, Leo took one last look at the university courtyard, the place where he had once believed in love, loyalty, and innocence. Then he turned away. That chapter of his life was over. He returned to the Carter Group, stepping into the corporate world that had always been waiting for him. Business meetings replaced lectures, strategy replaced emotion, and power became his new language. He excelled quickly, sharper and colder than before. Khloe reached out several times, emails, phone calls, handwritten letters. Each one filled with regret, apologies, and memories of what they used to be. Leo never replied. He didn't even open the last few messages. To him, she was no longer the woman he had loved, but the symbol of a lesson too costly to repeat. In the quiet of his new office, overlooking the city skyline, Leo finally understood something his father had once told him: people don't betray you because they're evil. They do it because they're weak. And with that truth, he let the past go, not out of forgiveness, but out of growth. A year later, Leo Carter returned to the university, not as a student, but as a guest speaker. Time had polished him into something colder, sharper. His presence carried the quiet authority of a man who had rebuilt himself from ashes. At his side was Sophia Hayes, his efficient and poised assistant, who handled every detail of his schedule with effortless grace. The auditorium buzzed with admiration as Leo spoke about leadership, resilience, and the importance of integrity. When the event ended, students lined up for photos, but Leo's attention drifted to a figure standing at the back of the hall, frozen in hesitation. Khloe, her once bright expression was shadowed by guilt. When the crowd thinned, she approached him slowly. "Leo, can we talk?" Sophia glanced at him, but Leo gave a small nod. They stepped outside, where the late afternoon sun painted the courtyard gold. Khloe's voice trembled as she spoke. "You were right about him. Ethan wasn't just manipulative, he was sick. A psychologist diagnosed him after everything collapsed. He had been watching me for months before he even talked to me. He studied my habits, my friends, even you." Leo's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Tears welled in her eyes. "He made me believe you were the enemy. Every fight we had, he planned it. I didn't see it until it was too late." For a long moment, Leo just stared at her, searching for the woman he used to know. But all he saw was a ghost of her, broken, hollow, and lost. Finally, he said quietly, "The truth doesn't change what's been done, Khloe." And with that, he turned back toward Sophia. leaving the past behind once more. The truth unraveled like a dark thread, one Leo never expected to be tied to his own family's legacy. Ethan had once been a Carter Foundation scholarship student, supported through high school by the very company Leo's father owned. It was meant to give talented, underprivileged youth a future. But for Ethan, it only bred class hatred. He grew up watching the elite from the outside, nursing a venomous envy toward Leo, the golden heir who seemed to have everything without effort. That envy festered into obsession. By the time they met at university, Ethan had already built a network of fake social accounts. Under different personas, activists, feminist voices, even supposed classmates, he slowly infiltrated Khloe's online world. Through daily conversations and carefully planted posts, he fed her doubts about Leo, that he was controlling, privileged, and dangerous to her independence. Ethan was patient, frighteningly so. Every fight Khloe had with Leo, every misunderstanding, had been calculated. He recorded their private arguments, edited the clips, and released them anonymously to fuel rumors. He wasn't just trying to hurt Leo. He wanted to destroy him publicly, strip away his name, his pride, his very sense of worth. To Ethan, this was justice, a twisted revenge against a system he believed had humiliated him since birth. When Khloe finally uncovered the truth, it was too late. Ethan had vanished, leaving behind only fragments of his manipulation, deleted accounts, hidden servers, and a file full of psychological notes he'd written about her and Leo, titled simply, Project Carter's Fall. The revelation chilled Leo to the core. For the first time, he realized Ethan's hatred wasn't personal, it was pathological. Humiliation twisted Ethan's mind beyond repair. After being expelled and publicly exposed, he sank into a delusional spiral, convinced that his life was a tragic novel, and he, its misunderstood protagonist. In his deranged vision, Leo wasn't a person anymore, he was the villain of the story, the symbol of everything Ethan hated: wealth, power, and privilege. He began to write again in his digital journal, filled with erratic ramblings and self-justifications. "The narrative is broken," he scribbled. "I must fix it. The hero must win, the villain must die." Driven by this fantasy, Ethan tracked Leo's schedule, followed him to business events, and even posed as a delivery worker to access the Carter building. His goal was simple but horrifying: to kill Leo and rewrite the ending. But fate turned against him. Khloe, now fully aware of his manipulation, decided to pretend to side with him. She acted sympathetic, telling him she finally understood his pain. Trusting her again, Ethan revealed everything: his obsession, his detailed plans, even the weapons he had acquired. Khloe secretly recorded their conversation and handed both the audio and Ethan's digital diary, Project Carter's Fall, to the police. When they came for him, Ethan didn't resist. He laughed hysterically, repeating, "It's not over. The story isn't over." His eyes were empty, his mind fractured beyond repair. Ethan was declared criminally insane and sent to a high-security psychiatric facility. For Leo, it was the final chapter of a nightmare, one that ended not with revenge, but with the terrifying realization of how far envy could twist the human soul. The aftermath of Ethan's capture left a heavy silence over everyone involved. The campus, once filled with gossip and whispers, returned to its calm routine, but for Leo Carter, the storm was far from forgotten. He had seen the depths of human manipulation, the fragility of trust, and the cost of misplaced innocence. 1 year of patience, strategy, and endurance had forged him into someone sharper, colder, yet far wiser than before. Khloe approached him that day, standing on the marble steps of the Carter Foundation building. Her eyes were pleading, her hands trembling as she tried to explain, to apologize, to make sense of everything. "Leo. She began, voice cracking. "I wasn't myself. Ethan, he twisted my thoughts. I should never have doubted you." Leo listened quietly, his expression unreadable. There was no warmth, no hint of the man she once loved. In his eyes, Khloe was no longer the bright, trusting girl who had stood by him. She had become a symbol of vulnerability exploited, a cautionary reminder of how innocence could be manipulated. "I know the truth now," Khloe whispered, desperation bleeding into every word. "I want to come back. I want a second chance." But Leo did not respond with anger, nor with reassurance. He simply shook his head, cold and deliberate. "There is no second chance for what's already broken," he said, his voice calm, measured, almost clinical. "I cannot undo the past, and I will not risk the future." Chloe's shoulders slumped. The weight of regret hit her like a physical blow. She realized, too late, that her actions, influenced by a manipulator she trusted, had cost her everything. Leo turned away, walking back toward the sleek glass doors of the building, each step echoing finality. In the days that followed, Leo poured himself into the Carter Corporation, channeling every lesson learned from betrayal into leadership and focus. He was stronger, wiser, and fully aware that life's battles were not always fought with fists or anger, but with restraint, intelligence, and self-control. Khloe, meanwhile, carried the burden of guilt, her admiration for Leo tempered with sorrow. She had learned the hard way that naivety could be dangerous, and that love, once fractured, might never return. The story closed not with reunion, nor with redemption, but with growth and consequences. Leo emerged fully matured, a man unshaken by deceit, while Khloe was left to navigate a life shadowed by regret, forever haunted by what manipulation had cost her. In the end, trust and resilience were the true victors, leaving behind a lesson sharper than any heartbreak, that innocence could be shattered, but strength, once forged, endured.